$5 Games presents Mary Skelter Nightmares. One way to put this game is that you are building a tower to fertilize the moon. That it's about an innocent guy building his harem of fairy tale characters. The other way to put it is that you are a group of literally tortured people who are trying to escape the innards of a horrific cosmic being. That it's about an anemic who has to use his own blood to stop his friends from killing everyone. So there is a very large dynamic setting where two cellmates who were forced to lick the walls together in rags for years are now put in much less embarrassing situations and very shyly react to them. The setting is so big that to me, it feels like it disconnects a bit. That the characters who are interacting with each other are not in the apocalyptic world where they have to eat the flesh of the creatures surrounding them in order to live. So, to go along with that criticism, I love parts of this game. The opening is solid. A long time ago, a giant creature devoured a city, and yet some people managed to survive inside of it. However, they ended up just being slaves to an array of monsters inside the creature. The protagonist, a slave like the rest, meets up with his cellmate who just finished a bout of licking the walls. He gives her some of his blood to sedate her as her eyes started turning pink. Suddenly, Red Riding Hood bursts in and steals her away. Chasing them down, the protagonist finds that she was just trying to rescue the cellmate. Not really anybody else, but she's trying to be a good person, so after he suggests to rescue everyone else, she complies. But it turns out that it may have not been for the best, as an invincible monster called a Nightmare chases them down, slaughtering Manny. Even after escaping, he finds his cellmate go into a berserk state of constant destruction. Using his body, or more accurately, his blood, as she attacks him, she exits this state, much to Red Riding Hood's surprise. Eventually, they make it back to the Liberated District, a small city of survivors whose only goal is to escape. But not everyone is who they appear to be. Actually, most people are not who they appear to be, but I suppose that's a bit of a spoiler. So this is probably where I should mention that this entire game is in the sequel. But even though it is, they make changes to the gameplay that I view as significant. I need to cover some of the gameplay, which is overly complicated with stuff that doesn't matter very much. What does matter are a few snowballing lose conditions. It is a first-person RPG dungeon crawl, meaning you're in a maze and occasionally run into a turn-based battle. However, in each zone, there is an invincible nightmare that you have to actively run away from. When you're caught, the map disappears, and the nightmare will attack you out of turn order until you escape. Meaning that while you're trying to escape, you can get into a battle and the nightmare will constantly be hitting you if you take too long on your turns. And that is the first snowball that can cause a game over. You are low on life or not strong enough to stun the nightmare, and you get into a battle when trying to escape. The second snowball is each character's super meter. If the meter is a bright pink, they should enter their super state and get a few turns doing powerful attacks. However, the meter can darken by filling up, taking damage, or someone dying. And when it's dark, the meter has a chance of the character entering an overpowered berserk state for the rest of the battle. You no longer control them, and they'll attack a random person or monster with a random attack. And what generally happens is that one of them goes berserk, attacks an ally, kills them, and causes a second party member to go berserk as well. Or they just use their most powerful attacking to a party wipe immediately. You can combat this by licking the person, which consumes a character's turn for a small boost. It's not as provocative as it sounds. Or by contributing to the last snowball effect. which is that the protagonist can use his limited blood to purify/brighten the superpower, give mana, just take a hit for someone, or make someone exit their berserk state. However, doing those actions causes him to lose blood, which increases the chance of him being stunned, making him unavailable for a while, and if he gets stunned 3 times, it's game over. Now, to be fair, you can save anywhere, so you never lose progress. On the other side of things, this is the map of the extra dungeon. It's about 30,000 squares and is easily the largest dungeon I've been through in any game. And it's kind of problematic because any battle can do a party wipe, meaning that if you really want to be safe, you have to save after every single battle, which, although is fast, is still time consuming. This is something that gets addressed in the sequel. Basically, they shrink all of the dungeons. However, they also used the combat mechanics of the sequel as well. One important aspect of this is that strong spells take multiple turns to cast in the sequel, and that you can be broken out of channeling them, making them almost worthless. While specifically in this version of the game, spells go off instantly, making them the strongest thing in the game. Now, I'd like to cover some of the more trivial parts of the game just to show you how complicated some of these things get, but I assure you that they don't really matter that much. There is a weakness system, but the order of this basically means nothing. There's not a good way to indicate which monster is which element, and the main impact of hitting someone with their weakness is that it fills up the super. Because despite this existing, a stronger attack is usually simply stronger even if it's not their weakness. There are stats, but some are fairly pointless, like speed, because everyone is guaranteed a turn every round. Some are vague, and others are downright unexplained. You can de-level your characters for a cumulative stat boost, but the cost to do so is so high that it's not really efficient to do until the end of the game. There is also a max stat boost that you can get from de-leveling your characters that's never addressed. There are these currencies on the side, and all they're used for really is to de-level your character, unlock new classes, expand the number of abilities you can equip, and upgrade weapons. But essentially, all of the different currencies are used for the same thing. Each class has 1 or 2 passives tied to it, and you have to be that class to have those passives. There are bounties in town, some of which are fairly annoying to fulfill. There's a roulette wheel that happens when one of these 3 circles gets filled. The white one is from spilling blood, the red one is from collecting heart emotes or licking, and the third one is doing anything when the jail is sleeping, which happens randomly when it's lit up. It is a random event on top of a time-based thing, which is the most annoying bounty to do. The roulette itself has decent benefits, but nothing you can really rely on. You can give presents to girls to build your affection with them. You can squirt blood on them to make 90% of their swimwear disappear for a very insignificant bonus. But anyways, there's a bunch of stuff that's interesting, but it doesn't really affect one of the snowballing game over conditions, which is really the core gameplay in my opinion. If you have questions, feel free to leave a comment and I'll try to answer them. But if it's about the max blood stat or this thing, I have no clue. Anyways, I tried really hard to avoid spoilers since there's a ton of plot related stuff that I love in this game, which does mean there's a lot of reading in the game. So if visual novels are not quite your thing, you might not want to pick this up. Although I assure you that wandering around the first-person dungeon takes up way more time than the reading, especially when it's this big. The reading was always a relief after escaping the nightmare. My waifu for this game is Gretel, mostly because she thinks, reads, and recognizes that they're all fairy tale characters. Like, she's the main person who is actually trying to figure out what's going on, unlike the rest of them. But Alice and Red Riding Hoods are both great waifus as well. Sorry, why am I talking about waifus? We'll just, end it here. Consider picking this game up when you're lost and hunted.